Good evening, Delaware, and welcome into DETV Sports. We've got another update for you here on this Tuesday night. Missed you last night, but here we are on a Tuesday, and we are happy to be back, joined by Jason McCall. Jason, happy to have you back.
Thank you.
And, of course, from the Draft Review, Matt Maurer. Matt, good to have you back as well. So let's just dive right into it. Jason, I know, how have you been here this last week or so? Good to have you back. Celtics are in full swing. We're going to talk a little bit about them. Ravens coming off a nice win yesterday. So how's your week been?
It's been great. Just a lot of different things personally happening, and my teams are doing well. But right now, it's all about DSU. It's homecoming week, so that's why I'm wearing these threads tonight. Check out Thorough Threads if you're on Lincoln Street if you want to get some nice gear. But I'm happy to sit across from my man Matt here and talk to you again, good sir, brother Nick, and ready to get this show started and get everything on and popping. So I am back, everyone.
And we are glad to have him back. And now Matthew Maurer, of course, joining us from the Draft Review. Matt, great to have you back here. I know we talked after last week's show. We were going to talk a little NBA today, so we are thrilled to have you back and to talk a little Eastern Conference as well as some of the Week 7 NFL headlines. How are you doing? I know the Sonics are not yet reinstated here in the NBA, but how's your week been here in the last week since we've talked?
It hasn't been that great. Unlike the illustrious gentleman who's had a great week, my fantasy week was bad.
I don't even want to talk
I went
about
1
fantasy.
for 4. It's just
Oh,
it's not good.
I'm right there with you.
And the Patriots let me down.
And the Patriots.
Yeah, Patriots defense let me down.
They did.
I
will tell you.
I'm gonna say my comments before we get to that game. We gotta get to that game.
We'll actually put that on the slate now. We'll talk about that in a second. We're going to start though with the Week 7 headlines. We'll quickly get through some of the stuff that happened in the NFL yesterday, last week, and then we're going to dive into our NBA preview tonight. We're going to take a look at the Eastern Conference. I know a lot of teams about 3 or 4 games in, so we're going to pick up right there and dive into the season outlooks here for the East. But again, you would be crazy without to say go Phillies. Phillies in the World Series since the last time we all talked. Friday, Game 1 in Houston. It is going to be an exciting – Red October is in full swing, man. I'll tell you. We are excited here at DVTV and around the Philadelphia area for the Phillies back in the World Series.
Watch those trash cans.
This Friday. That's right. You got to keep an eye on the Astros. I don't know. Something's up with them. So let's dive in, guys. We'll talk about the NFL. Let's start with our Week 7 headlines, and that has to begin with the trade of Christian McCaffrey. Since the last time we all got together, Christian McCaffrey heading to the San Francisco 49ers. And Matt, if you're a fantasy owner and you were a Jeff Wilson owner, not good for you, but if you're a McCaffrey owner, maybe things are looking up. Let's just start there, guys. McCaffrey having his first game. Didn't get a full workload, didn't know if he was going to play or not in that game. The Chiefs, though, beat the brakes off of the 49ers. Couldn't really get anything going in that one. Jason, let's start with you here. 44-23 quickly, though. What do you think this trade of Christian McCaffrey has to do season long here wise when you're thinking about the Niners long term?
Run CMC. He's going to have a career resurgence.
You think so now going forward?
Going forward, he's going to have a career resurgence because that Carolina culture is toxic. That atmosphere is just, it wasn't working out for him.
Or anybody.
Or anybody, for that matter. But I do believe that this is a very great pickup for the Niners. I think it's even better for Jimmy G, but we know sometimes that deep ball isn't his strongest suit, so now he can throw to CMC in the flat and pick up the extra few yards doing that. And then you open up the running lanes and the passing lanes for Ayuk and for Debo, and you open up some more across the middle for George Kittle. So it's going to open up their offense. I would give it probably about 2 or 3 games to work itself out, but once they get past like Week 10, they're going to be scary.
And Matt, we know the Niners like to throw at the line of scrimmage or behind the line of scrimmage. How do you see McCaffrey, maybe not fantasy or fantasy-wise, NFL-wise going forward with the Niners? Do you like the move? They gave up a ton of picks to go get him.
Yeah, it was kind of the Herschel Walker trade. We gave up, I think, a 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and I think a 5th for next year's draft to get him. But it was needed, as he has said. I think Jeff Wilson, while serviceable, he's not somebody that you could really hook your sleigh onto and carry you through a whole season. I agree with the fact that not only being in that Kyle Shanahan system is good for CMC, but also I think it's going to take some of that pressure off. I mean, in Carolina, he literally, it was run, then I catch, then I run, then I catch again. They didn't seem like they wanted to throw to anybody else.
No, they
it
definitely
was crazy,
did not.
and I think that the so much production was put on him that's the reason why we only saw him play, I think, 9 games in the last 2 years before you count this year. So I think it's going to be great for him. I think it's really going to be good for the 49ers. If you're a fantasy owner, obviously you're affected by Jeff Wilson if you pick them up. But as a fantasy owner, if you have CMC, it's definitely going to be a shot in the arm because teams are not going to be able to just line up against him.
I do have CMC, so I'm fine with it. I've had CMC. I normally pick him in my first 2 or 3 picks every year, regardless of his health. And it's worked out so far.
It worked out so far this year. Again, he'll get a bulk of that workload going forward. But if there's one thing we know about the 49ers offense is some of these backs tend to go down in this offense. Very injury prone for those 49ers running backs. We've seen it the last 5 years. I mean, you can call it Kyle Shanahan, you can call it the Niners, the offensive scheme. But the fact of the matter is they can't keep running backs healthy in San Francisco. And now you got Christian McCaffrey, who's injury prone himself. Is that something now you have to worry about, Jason, going forward? Is the injuries still something? Hopefully, we'll see how much work he gets in San Fran.
The injury bug will always be a thing for McCaffrey, but I think him, honestly, to change the scenery, being back on the West Coast, being from that area.
That is also true, yeah.
Training.
Stanford, right out
his training regimen, he's built his body up. It's actually bigger than what he used to be. So I think he's a little more built for the scenario that's going to be put in. Do I think he's a 20 or 25 carry back anymore? No.
I don't think
I think he's around 15, 20 carries, and they'll probably do that, but also sprinkle him into the passing game. So you give him about 15, 20 carries a game, maybe throw the ball to him about 6, 7 times a game. That's how you get his workload in. And then you run him as a decoy, and like I said, it opens up Ayuk and Debo and everyone else on that offense, and it makes it work. So, but we know that when Jimmy G is successful, he has a good running back with him. So this is just a recipe for success. And it spells, they may have a quarterback controversy going into next year, because if Trey Lance is unproven and did what he did already and then got injured, and you have Jimmy G on a 1-year deal, who's taking you to NFC Championship recently as last year and also to the Super Bowl before, that's a real decision to make again.
Deja vu all over again, right?
So
after last year.
They could be in the same scenario in next offseason.
Again,
I see it already right now.
And again, Jimmy G, hasn't been great since he's come back. Missing a lot of the offseason workouts. Wasn't with that offense for majority of the preseason into the regular season. You look now at the division here in the NFC West. Seattle, the Seahawks are 4-3. They're tops in the division.
Clap up for Geno.
Rams sitting at 3-3, and then the Niners at 3-4, tied with the Cardinals there at 3-4. Matt, how do you see the rest of the season going for San Fran? Do they have a chance to win this division and make the playoffs?
I think they have a chance to get into the division hunt. Yeah, I think they do, especially with CMC. I think he fits really good with this. I think we're going to really see a huge production out of him, just because I think he's always been the type of back that's been a Jamal Charles, where he can get 15 carries and literally have the same production as somebody who gets 25 carries. He's very, very good that way. And I just think, we're starting to see Jimmy G target Ayuk. He's starting to get Ayuk more involved, who was in the doghouse last year.
As a Debo owner, I know he's getting Ayuk involved a lot this year.
The interesting odd man out seems to be George Kittle lately. Hopefully Kittle can come back and start. And then they still have defensive guys that are out that they're still working to get back in.
They took some hits early in the season.
They did. So, yeah, I think they can take a real shot at getting in that hunt. But, yeah, hats off to Geno Smith in Seattle. I mean, at 28 years old, this guy comes out. And
talk about revitalization.
Yeah, he's literally having a phenomenal year. I mean, I actually used him in a bye week last week. So.
I did too.
And again, Seattle making that deal to send Russell Wilson to Denver. He wanted more money. He got it with the Broncos. And maybe they knew what they had waiting in the wings with Geno Smith, who came in and performed pretty well when Russ missed some games last year. So the Seahawks, again, you look down, they are leading the NFC West, something we would have never said a month or two ago. So we'll keep moving down to the next one. Panthers beat the Bucs 21-3. Brady, I'm not sure if it's Giselle or what's going on with Tom, that Bucs offense, Dennis. We apologize. 3 points in a loss to P.J. Walker and the Carolina Panthers.
Temple, baby. Let's go. Local product Temple. Let's go, P.J. Walker.
Just a few days after the Christian McCaffrey trade, they get Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard. They get in there and perform really well. Foreman over 100 yards rushing. 21-3 win for the Panthers. Are you guys worried about the Bucs? Matt, I'll start with you here. What do you think about Tampa's outlook?
Well, Tampa's been a worry for me, just because anytime you have a quarterback that's over 40, that cliff is there. and just don't know when that cliff is coming. We saw it with Peyton Manning. We've seen it with Ben Roethlisberger. When you hit a certain point, guys just go. And I don't know if that's the case with him. I don't know if it's off the field, as you stated, with his divorce. But, they've also had a plethora of injuries. They've got guys in and out. He's definitely looks like he's having some of his old routes. The timing has been off. So there's things there. Also, they didn't run Leonard Fournette a whole lot in that game. I should know. Had him on fantasy.
I did too. We're going to be making references about this all night.
Yeah. But, I just think at the end of the day, I think we're seeing that this is why it's always been, Bill Belichick's been worried about this. I mean, that was one of the issues while Jimmy G went to San Francisco.
Back then,
is because Bill Belichick was like, look, I've groomed Jimmy G, and you're getting older. We got to start making this transition. And I think that was always the worry when you have an older quarterback. So I think Tampa's going to be fighting all year to just scrape into the playoffs.
And Jason, one of the things me and you mentioned before the show was it's not just the offense. I know the offensive line dealing with a bunch of injuries, losing Ryan Jensen, who was the an integral part of that offensive line, the one that can stop the pass rush from coming right down the middle of which is Brady struggles with the most, that interior pass rush. But the defense hasn't been great.
Yeah, defense hasn't really been great all year. I think Shaq Barrett's on a milk carton somewhere. Pierre Paul plays for the Ravens now.
Got some injuries coming up for this week.
A lot of injuries. Winfield's out. I just don't like the makeup of Tampa's team. They were already an older team before people retired and got injured and things of that nature. I really think they're missing Gronk. And I said it before again, and I'll say it again. They're missing AB.
As crazy as Antonio Brown is, I will say it shows. I mean, he was a big part of that offense before he walked off the field at the Meadowlands last year. A huge part of that team that won the Super Bowl, him out of the slot. He was fantastic. And again, Brady's starting to get some of these weapons back right now. You got Godwin back. Evans dropped a big one on Sunday. That would have set the tone, right?
Would have set the tone.
It would have set the tone. But after all this, and we can talk about the Bucs and all the struggles they've had all season, it seems like a topic every week. They're 3-4 and tied for the lead in the division. That's how bad the NFC South is, with Tampa and Atlanta at 3-4, Carolina and the Saints at 2-5. So, you can kind of hear it from him.
And the Saints will still win the division, Dennis.
That's a little bet that these two got going on behind the scenes, the Saints and Tampa. He was New Orleans. Dennis, of course, going with Tampa Bay.
I like that bet.
But that's a close one. But this division, and that's maybe why Tom Brady doesn't seem too worried early on. They've played absolutely atrocious. They're 3-4, and they lead the division.
Hey, the NFC South this year is the new NFC East.
Oh, yeah, I can't compare that to the NFC East anymore. I believe the NFC East has four teams in the top 10 of the NFL power rankings coming up this year. So that is crazy for the NFC East. The Giants, they beat the Jaguars, which you might not think was maybe too crazy coming into the contest 5-1. The Jags were actually favored at home in that ball game. Giants 6-1. Jason, Brian Daboll, he's got to be the favorite for Coach of the Year yet again, week in and week out.
Hand him a trophy right now. Nobody thought the Giants would be 6-1, not even the Giants themselves.
That's right.
When you infuse that kind of energy and that kind of belief into a team, and when you bring a winning pedigree like he's brought over from the Bills, and when you have already some decent skill players, you have a healthy Saquon, you have a more careful Daniel Jones with the ball.
Not turning the ball over near as much.
And you have the studs you have on defense, from the rookies to the veterans. Thibodeau's looking like a great pick, like we said he was going to be. And they have a team. The Giants are a complete football team, and as they keep winning games, now they're 6-1. I hate to say it, but it's not a fluke. It's not a fluke. Now, will they only have one loss the whole season? No, we're not going that far.
Yeah.
But are they what I call them a contender right now in the NFC? Yes, I would.
And again, been doing it all, Matt, without really a receiving core. Darius Slayton been stepping in the last couple of years. He was a starter for the Giants, couldn't get on the field the last year and a half. He's making big waves at receiver for the Giants. Daniel Jones, like you said, if you're a fantasy guy, put up 28 fantasy points on Sunday, and the Giants got another win.
Yeah, somehow Daniel Jones has become a scrambling quarterback, and that was something we didn't see in the beginning stages of his career. I mean, he had nice runs here and there, but he's really, tucking the ball instead of making those risky throws. He's eluding and he's extending plays. They're starting to work in, Wan'Dale Robinson, who's a great pickup for them. They got in the second round. So there's pieces there for them that they still don't even have everything put together yet, and they're still winning these tough games. So that's ultra impressive. I think Slayton and Richie James have been the primary wideouts for the team. So, and then they also have the promising young guy, Daniel Bellinger. He got poked in the eye.
Who's injured for a while right now. Miss a game or two.
Crazy eye injury.
Yeah, it was
for Daniel
bad.
Bellinger. If you haven't seen it, it was brutal there. And not to mention
I had him
Evan
on my
Neal.
fantasy, and
Evan Neal gone down for them in the offensive line. The offensive line has been so much improved for them this year. Evan Neal's going to be a tough loss, but not season ending. They'll hope to get him back in a couple weeks. Again, you look at the NFC East, Eagles 6-0. Giants 6-1, Dallas 5-2, and the Commanders at 3-4. The Commanders would be tied for the division lead in the NFC South if only they played with the Bucs, Falcons, Panthers, and Saints. Now the Packers, though, they're struggling as well in the NFC North. They lose yet again. Feels like every week we have to talk about the Packers because they have a substantial loss. Well, here we go. They lose to the Commanders 23-21. Taylor Heineke's first game as a starter for Carson Wentz, who was put on IR, and they get the win. Aaron Rodgers, again, off to the worst start of his career through 7 games. I pretty much ask you guys weekly, are you pressing the panic button on the Green Bay Packers? I know I hit it a few weeks ago. Jason, I think you did, and Matt, maybe you last week. It just keeps getting worse up in Green Bay.
Hell yes, that's rotten cheese up there in Green Bay. That is moldy cheese, and it's going to keep getting worse. That's what happens when you choose greed over team. Aaron Rodgers does not need that contract. He should take a page from Tom Brady's playbook, years in New England.
I agree with that.
And you spread the wealth around and keep your best players there. And it's also a play calling issue with Matt LaFleur. When you have 2 running backs like you have with Dillon and Jones, change the offense. You don't have the receivers you had anymore. You don't have Devontae Adams. You don't have Valdez-Scantling. You're depending on rookies and Allen Lazard.
Who's banged up.
You have 2. I look at the tandem of Jones and Dillon like I look at Hunt and Chubb in Cleveland. If you got top-tier running backs like that, you run them and use them. You use Aaron Jones out the backfield in the flat for catching the ball. If they want to make any noise the rest of the season, they have to change the entire offense. It can't just be on Aaron Rodgers' arm alone, and that's the problem you're seeing. And the defense isn't the great defense they've had in the past. So
had
when
high
Aaron Rodgers
expectations coming in.
So when Aaron Rodgers can't overcompensate for the lack of defense, and your offense can't score either, then you have problems. And this is what I thought was going to happen when the season first started. I said they lose too many people.
And we both had the Vikings.
We both had the Vikings winning the NFC North, and the Packers are in trouble, and they let the Commanders beat them. That says a lot.
It's been low the last couple of weeks in Washington. The Commanders get the win,
But
Matt.
Taylor Heineke, man, crack a Heineke open for him. He's back.
That's right. People already asked if there's a quarterback controversy in Washington. I'm going to avoid that question tonight, Matt. But if you're the Packers, the playoffs aren't looking like. I mean, it's early in the season, so are playoffs not a possibility for Aaron Rodgers?
I don't think so. And I think some of this. I think my man touched on a lot of it. I think it's been a lot of Aaron Rodgers' hubris that he just felt like, oh, you just draft a guy and I'll make him. Don't worry, just pay me my money. Draft any guy you want. Well, they got Christian Watson, nothing. Romeo Doubs, nothing. So, and he's frustrated. I see him making throws and he's frustrated that guys aren't, well, dude, you got rookies. They're going to make mistakes. That's just going to happen. You don't always hit money every time you go into a draft. Anybody who watches their team draft every year knows this. So you got lucky. You plucked Devontae Adams. You've had Jordy Nelson. You've had Greg Jennings. You've had some blessings in your drafting. Well, guess what? You didn't hit the home run that you needed. And he, instead of him saying, you know what, maybe this is on me. Maybe I need to step back. Maybe I need to hyper-focus on getting Jones and Dillon in. Maybe they can open up. Maybe make some more plays, get Robert Tonyan more involved. But Allen Lazard is your number 1 wideout on that team, and that's scary because this guy really is a wide R3 on any other team. But because of the personnel, he's the guy you can count on. And as we talked about last week, losing Randall Cobb was devastating for them. I mean, that is a guy that he had comfort with, that he's no longer there.
But if it depends on Randall Cobb, that's still an issue as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah, it's been, and we said for weeks now, it's been an issue over there in
Absolutely.
Green Bay. We talked about Aaron Rodgers being off for the worst start of his career. I mean, that's
It's going to keep going.
evident. Yeah, I mean, we'll see how that progresses here with Green Bay. He hasn't been great himself, too. Like you said, the rookies have been making mistakes, and as you mentioned, Matt, that's just how, that's the business. That's going to happen.
That's the business.
But he's missing more throws than I've seen him miss also, the last couple of years as well.
And the new phrase now for this season is no pack, no.
I like that.
There's nothing else.
Again, Aaron Rodgers not present at those voluntary offseason workouts with any of those rookies that were drafted. Didn't have a chance to throw with them in the offseason. He was doing his own thing, doing the whatever it was that he was doing there in the offseason, and it is showing here on the field for Green Bay. Not off to a great start up in Lambeau. Jets, though, they're off to a way better start, though things might not be as bright here on Monday. They do, though, get the win over Brett Rippon and the Denver Broncos. No Russell Wilson dealing with that partially torn hamstring.
Say Rippon.
The Jets, though, now looking pretty good. Jason and Matt, they've won a few in a row. Zach Wilson under center. But the main bright spot of that team was Breece Hall, the draft pick for the New York Jets, was supposed to come in, second-round pick, and really make an impact. And he looked maybe as one of the most talented running backs in the league here in the past couple games. Broke off a 60-yard touchdown run before he goes down. But the news, horrible news out of New York, and that is torn ACL for Breece Hall. Also some issues in the meniscus area. He's going to be out the rest of the season. I mean, that is just an absolute huge blow for the Jets. They do get the win, though, here somehow over the Broncos. They're riding high here. Matt, I'll start with you here. The Jets, they lose Breece Hall, but they've been high. How do you think they do the rest of the season here this year without Breece Hall?
Well, obviously they're going to struggle a little bit. They're going to have to count on Wilson to get more involved. They just picked up James Robinson from Jacksonville. That's huge for them. They got a steady back.
And that shows you, right, they want to win, right? They're making moves now. They think they got something.
Absolutely. But I also think what we're seeing with the Jets is a culture change. I think guys like Sauce are coming in. They're giving this bravado. They're giving this energy. And I think the guys feed off of it. I mean, I love watching Sauce talk. I love when he's out there playing.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, he's invested. He really is there to make this culture change, and I think it's infectious. And I think you got guys like Breece Hall, and they drafted wonderful this year. I think they had 3 first-rounders. They all hit home runs on most of those guys. So I think we're seeing a culture change. I think it's a good pickup for them, and I think going out, being aggressive, getting James Robinson, who is a 1,000-yard back.
Yeah.
I think that just states that they're invested this year.
Yeah, and Jason, some injuries on the offensive line. Elijah Vera Tucker now out for the season. The huge draft pick for them in last year's draft. Breece Hall's done. We went to Mekhi Becton before the season started. He went down. Dwayne Brown, his replacement, who they brought in off the couch, has been battling injuries himself, but able to play here lately. How do you feel about the Jets?
I forgot Dwayne Brown was in the NFL. I'm sorry. I forgot that for a second, man. But
so tell me, what can the Jets do this year?
Well, even before they picked up James Robinson, they still had Carter in the backfield, who's actually very serviceable as well.
Called him the heartbeat of the offense from the preseason.
Yeah, so I wasn't really worried about. I was upset with Breece Hall being hurt for the rest of the season, but having Carter there, I thought was a great chance. But now you're picking up James Robinson, who was doing work in Jacksonville.
First couple of weeks this year,
I'm
he looked
surprised
really good.
they even let him go.
Hey, that tells you what they think about Travis Etienne.
Etienne's not that guy, but that's another story.
Oh, yeah, that is another story, because I like Etienne.
Etienne's not that guy. He's not. But
see, I'm on the fence with that.
But
that's how it was before the season, right?
I do think James Robinson actually adds a better element to the offense than Breece Hall could right now this year. I like Robinson, when they throw, I'm going back, saying it all night long. When they do go to the back in the flat, I think a little more shiftiness, a little better pass catching ability with Robinson.
And Carter's going to get a lot of that work.
And Carter's going to get that work too. But when you still have Zach Wilson, who's playing great football, you still have those wide receivers. Moore's healthy now, like you have the rookie.
He's back in. Wanted to trade, but he's back with the team now. We'll see how that
have the rookie,
plays out.
Garrett Wilson, still there. Again, I look at I don't know what it is in the water at MetLife this year, but
it's true. I mean, how about the 2 New York teams, right?
It must be God's greatest green grass, so we call it in MetLife. Both teams are doing well, and I think they're going to continue to do well the rest of the season. The Jets are going to give the Bills a run for their money. I'm going to say it here right now.
Yeah,
as far as winning the division.
And I might have been with you. Just to me, the Breece Hall injury is just, I think it's a lot bigger than.
But I do agree that James Robinson could come in.
Huge pickup. I agree. A big pickup and a smart move by them,
here's
too.
The problem, right? This is why I'll take the Jets over the Bills. The Bills know they haven't had a real running back in a long time. How did the Jets get? How did the Jets get James Robinson and you didn't? If you have Super Bowl aspirations and you know you're as running back, you make that trade. You don't let your rival in division make that trade.
Hey, Josh Allen is their running back. I guess that's how they're
But that's a problem.
And it has been a problem.
But again, and Josh Allen plays just like Cam Newton. What happened to Cam Newton after he kept running the ball a lot? He kept getting hit and his arm went with him. Yeah. They got to protect Josh Allen.
Can you imagine that? Yeah, in a couple years, if Josh Allen starts to deteriorate, God, wouldn't that be?
But that's who Josh Allen reminds me of. He's just a better arm.
Yeah.
And he looks for those hits too.
He looks like
he's got that.
He asked to get hit.
Yeah, he likes getting hit.
But as a quarterback, you can't keep doing that.
Nah.
You can't keep doing that.
Yeah, he's again built a little bit different, but I agree with you. After time, that's going to result in something maybe a little bit more serious than you could have predicted early on. Again, Jets lose Breece Hall, but pick up a win, so still a team that's still trending in the positive direction. Let's wrap up the NFL here with the Seahawks, or we'll talk about the Patriots in a second. But the Seahawks beating up the Chargers, 37-23, and if you watch that game, that score did not represent how that game really was. Seahawks took it to them. Yeah. It was bad early and often throughout that game. The Chargers added some late touchdowns there late in the contest. Geno Smith, we already talked about it here so far today. Yep. Seahawks leading that division. I believe they went. I'm not sure if this game was I thought it was in L.A., and it was. They go into L.A., into SoFi Stadium, and pound the Chargers. We all sat up here, me and Jason sat up here in the NFL preseason talking, it's Seattle tank for a quarterback. 5 quarterbacks are going to go in the top 10 picks, and I think maybe that was their plan. And I think it might have been their plan coming in. Yeah. But when Geno plays like that, things change. They lead the division. They beat the Chargers. Does this say more about the Seahawks or more about the Chargers, which that offense has been just struggling?
It says more about the Chargers to me. Mm-hmm. And I'm worried about Justin Herbert. I don't know if it's the injury to the rib, but something's off there. Yeah. And they lost Mike Williams now.
That's true.
Keenan Allen's come back in.
J.C. Jackson out for the season.
Yep. Josh Palmer was out this game. He's banged up. They lost. Joshua Kelly's out now.
Donald Parham came back for one game. He went down in that game.
But losing J.C. Jackson is going to prove to be.
Yeah. They've been kind of playing without him though a little bit so far this season. So I get it. He was banged up. He didn't look good in the game he played last week when he came back from that injury. He was getting beat down the field, and now you know why. It's because he's hurt.
Advertised either. The defense has not been as good as advertised.
I know Bosa goes down, Joey Bosa, so that hurts. Khalil Mack's playing.
You know what? Yeah, let me. Anybody seen Khalil Mack? Anybody?
Yeah.
Khalil Mack, hello?
Yeah, he's been on milk carton.
You talk about the off-season acquisitions, right? Khalil Mack, you can't find him. Troy Reader, what an acquisition, Delaware, he's on the Chargers now, reunited with his head coach, Brandon Staley. But you combine with Brandon Staley and some of the decisions that he's made for that team as an in-game manager, as you might say. Justin Herbert threw the ball 51 times. For 290 yards in that game on Sunday.
No quarterback wins a game throwing the ball 51 times.
Nah.
Unless you're in like a 45-42 shootout. Yeah. If it's not that, then it's not going to be winning football.
And because Geno took it to him so early, they went down early, and that's what happens. You got to throw the ball 51 times to get back. I don't know if you need to throw it necessarily that many times. But
now when you have Eckler.
The offense for the Chargers has just been stagnant now for weeks. It happened a few weeks ago. You're like, all right, give it another week. It's been 3 or 4 straight weeks that they can't move the football.
Well, I'm with Matt here. Herbert's not healthy, and he shouldn't be playing. That injury is preventing him from putting the proper torque and velocity on the ball that he normally does to be accurate and drop it in. You can see it in his throwing motion. He's not comfortable right now, and he's actually playing timid because he's hurt. He's afraid of getting another big hit and being out for the rest of the season. So he's playing timid. He's not fully healthy. And the Chargers just aren't as good as we thought they were on paper before the season started.
Coming in, they were one of the teams of a trendy pick to make the Super Bowl.
They weren't my trendy pick, but because I just it's the Chargers. I mean, honestly, if it's not Phillip Rivers back there, I'm not really, or even Drew Brees era. I don't think that they've been really a contender in this modern era. But I think this game, to play devil's advocate, I think this game says more about the Seahawks than it does about the Chargers. I think that going on the road, well, SoFi Stadium to me is like a
neutral field.
Site. It is neutral field. You know?
I know, as crazy as that sounds.
It's like a neutral field.
Accurate.
It's like a neutral field to me, but it is still a road game against a conference opponent outside of the NFC. So I think the Seahawks are proving that we can win this way. They're going back to old school Pete Carroll football. Good running game, solid play action passing game. It has enough playmakers on the outside to make it work. We had a Marquise Goodwin sighting again.
And they're going to need more of him. DK Metcalf now out.
Fran days, man.
Yes. And again, DK, though, now going to be out multiple weeks. Says that he won't need surgery, but he's going to be out. That's going to hurt them.
That means they have to use Tyler Lockett more again.
Lockett already had that hamstring coming in. But like you said, Goodwin's going to have to step up for them now. Estridge, I believe, I think he's still there as well.
He is still there.
Freddie Swain, who they took out of the University of Florida a few years ago. But Kenneth Walker.
Man.
I mean, my
Kenneth
goodness.
Walker's a star.
I mean, coming in, you heard – LaDainian Tomlinson, and you're thinking, wow, LaDainian Tomlinson, that comparison, that's what I see when I look at Kenneth Walker. Somebody brought this question up to me last week before the Breece Hall injury. Who would you rather have, Breece Hall or Kenneth Walker? And I couldn't I was leaning Breece Hall before the injury. You hate to see that, but those two guys, those could be the two best backs in the league in a couple years.
It's a toss-up. That is a complete toss-up. You can't go wrong either way.
No.
You really can't.
I think it depends on your style that you like to see your runners with. Because Kenneth has that power.
If you're running like that old Denver zone blocking scheme, on the power, your zone scheme, Walker. If you want somebody to hit the outside and just bounce it out and just run that running gun offense, then you go Breece.
Yeah. Either way, you can't lose.
Can't lose. 2 second-round picks, again, making an impact. That's why you like to hear you don't pay running backs. You can go get them in the draft.
You should, but
the
that's
mid-run rounds.
They should. Definitely should.
That's just how it works, and that's why teams don't. But Kenneth Walker, 23 carries, $168, 2 touchdowns for Kenneth Walker in that win on the road at the Chargers. Seahawks get another big win. So that's football week 7 headlines. Jason, though, before we jump into the NBA and talk about the East, I know you had something to say about the Patriots at home last night. Bailey Zappi, some Mac Jones controversy there. But the Bears, Justin Fields coming into Gillette Stadium and taking it to the Patriots last night.
Well, the Bears did the Super Bowl shuffle on the Patriots last night. They thought it was 1985 again. They thought they were playing Steve Grogan and Irvin Fryer out there.
They did.
Put it to them.
They did.
Nobody expected that last night. Yeah. All the money.
10-point favorites, almost double-digit
favorites.
favorites.
All the money in Vegas went the other way last night. I did not expect that. But I will give credit to Justin Fields for last night's game. I will give credit for Eberflus for calling a great game yesterday. And something's wrong in New England. Something's wrong in New England. But I said it before the season started. When you don't really have a real wide receiving core.
We talked about the coaching staff as well. You don't have an offensive coordinator.
But you don't have a coordinator. You don't have a true receiving core. And this is Bill Belichick. This is not the Patriots' Bill Belichick. This is Cleveland Browns' Belichick that we're getting right now. So let's not forget, he wasn't always the greatest coach in the world.
That is true.
This is looking more like Cleveland Browns Belichick than New England Belichick right now because they have anything to work with.
And Matt, I'll ask you this question. To me, also, Jason, is the loss of Josh McDaniels. And again, Josh McDaniels, maybe not the greatest head coach of all time when he was with Denver, now Oakland, Las Vegas. They're off to a little bit of a slower start, but he had that offense into a rhythm last year. He was a great offensive coordinator. He kind of knew how to work with Mac Jones in that offense. He leaves now, and then you got a combination of Joe Judge and Matt Patricia. What have you seen out of that Patriots offense this year?
I mean, I wasn't a big buyer in Mac Jones last year. And the reason why is I think they were smart.
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
they knew what he could do and what he couldn't do.
Yeah.
But I think, like, there was one game I think he threw the ball 3 times.
Yes, he did. I remember that one.
And as opposed to Urban Meyer, who had Trevor Lawrence and threw it 50 times, I think, his first game, which was like, what are you doing, bro?
That was.
And you got James Robinson sitting there. It's like, you're not going to give him any.
Wouldn't hand him the ball.
Wouldn't hand him the ball. So I think McDaniels not being there is missing. But look, let's be honest. Bill Belichick hasn't done his greatest work with this team. I think the Patriots have always kind of struggled with quarterbacks who are shifty, have a little wiggle to them. I'm just happy for Justin Fields, honestly. I mean, this is a guy that everybody has kind of take a swipe at. there's talks of overrated. There's talks of all these things. And I always felt that he had great talent. I think when you're on a team where the O-line is so bad, I think Pro Football Focus has him the worst O-line. I think one guy on there could probably start for other teams.
It was like a Nagy last year, he was
The
dreadful
receiving
the last
core
couple years.
isn't the greatest.
No.
But luckily, he has 2 running backs behind him that can do some work.
That's a fact. And I do like Mooney. I think Mooney, if he can get going.
Mooney's going to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver.
Starting to get it going. Fields looking a little bit better.
And I think Cole Kmet has talent, but they've had to use him at blocking so much.
So much that he can't really use his full offensive arsenal.
Can't do it.
Well, I mean, through 3 weeks, they threw the ball 22 times. At least now they're letting him put the ball in the air. 21 attempts in the win last night. And he's really been looking good when he's out of the pocket. They get him on the move.
Yeah.
He
You
can
have
use his
to
legs.
curtail the offense to his skill set.
Yes.
Once they do that, they will win a lot more games, and I think they're starting to see that already.
Yeah.
Because he's a threat with his arm and with his legs equally.
That's right. That's right.
I think that once they just buy into his skill set
Yep.
and surround him with better weapons.
Yep.
This year may not be the year. They might win a few more games. I'll give them that. But they have to go into the offseason. What type of receivers, what type of skilled guys do you need to put around him to make him successful? They need guys they need a bunch of Wes Welker, Tyreek Hill type players who can catch the ball
And get out.
Yeah, and like I said, they got none of that.
And they need one deep threat. They don't have a deep threat yet.
No.
Mooney he's an idiot, but he's not really a deep threat.
Correct.
I mean, and like you said, Mooney's been good. When you're playing the Bears and you're saying, hey, who are we going to look out for? It's Darnell Mooney, right? And that's pretty much it. And they're out of the receiving course. So they kind of game plan at least towards him. They've taken him out of the game, or opposing teams have for most of the part of the year, whether that be through scheme or Justin Fields himself through the pass game. But I agree with you, Matt, Jace. I think he's getting a little bit better here as the season progresses. Looks a little bit more comfortable. They're letting him do, I think, some things that he's more comfortable with. And I think we saw that last
Hell, I think Allen Robinson might request a trade back.
I don't know if I go that far just yet.
He's sure ain't getting the ball in L.A.
Patriots go down as almost double-digit favorites last night to Chicago. Again, at least it wasn't an ugly Monday night football game. I know the Thursdays have just been really bad, but we'll take at least some scoring we got to see last night. So now let's talk some NBA here. Our East preview took us about 20 minutes to get into the NBA, those Week 7
headlines.
First
on the list.
But let's talk about the East, and we're going to go by division. I know that's not common here when we talk about the NBA, but we are going to do that. We're going to start with the Atlantic and the defending Eastern Conference champs, Jason. That is your Boston Celtics, 3-1, taking down the Sixers on opening night at TD Garden. They are first in three-point field goals made, ninth in three-point percentage. Tatum averaging 32.5, 8 and 3.5 through the first 4 games. Jaylen Brown at 24 points per game, which you kind of expected out of those guys. The new addition, Malcolm Brogdon, he's giving them 12. I know he's dealt with some injuries in the preseason. But let's talk now, guys, about the Boston Celtics. I believe still the Vegas favorite to win the East coming into this season. They're 3-1, Jason. What have you seen from them so far this year?
Their Vegas' pick still to win the finals. I don't know.
Also overall here.
Yeah, their Vegas pick overall. Now, I know I may be a homer with them, but I was like, wait, they're the number? They're the favorite? Odds-on favorite?
I still got to lean Golden State.
So I'm until somebody dethrones the Warriors, I'm going to lean that way. But I'm going to support the squad, but of course. But looking at the stats right now, I'm going to put a circle around that 3-point made and 9 percentage. That's misleading. We know that Celtics over the years have gotten 3 happy and shot themselves out of games. It's working right now. Is it going to be a thing where it's going to be consistent all season? It's yet to be seen. But Coach Zella stepping in for a situation with Udoka this year. They're basically interchangeable coaches, if you will. Still came from the same tree of coaching. I think Mazzello is more of an offensive mind and defensive mind like Udoka was, but when you have the rest of the staff there who's been there already on the cohesive unit, they're not really going to miss too much of a beat. But the Celtics are pretty much treading water until Robert Williams gets healthy, to be honest. And the pickup of Brogdon is a great move because now you can take Smart off the ball, leave him on the bench in longer stretches, and Brogdon can be that lead guard, and you can play a lineup with. I saw a lineup the other night with Brogdon and Smart in the lineup. I saw a lineup with Brogdon, Smart, and Derek White, with Jalen at the 4 and Tatum at the 5. I was like, oh, we have a small ball lineup now. This is
Yeah, it's a small ball lineup for sure.
this is scary. But you see the pieces. I think the Boston will be solid all season. They will be contenders.
Best record in the East?
Won't go there yet.
Okay.
They'll be top 3 in the East for sure. But health is always going to play a factor with Boston.
And Matt, we talked about this last week, and a guy that you really highlighted was Robert Williams, being with that surgery, dealing with that last year, now coming back. One of the best, better defensive players in the league. It's going to hurt him early, but when he comes back, they're going to be even better.
Yeah, I think Robert Williams, if he doesn't get penalized on missing the games, I think he has a legit chance to win Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, he's amazing at what he does. When he's not in the game, they're affected. He just really is active. He rotates. He doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses. Like, I know everybody's gung-ho for Rudy Gobert this year, but the difference between him and Rudy Gobert is he actually can switch on guys.
He can score as well.
He can
Playoffs,
score as
right?
well. Yes.
I'm not big on Gobert.
Me either.
But to piggyback off of
Got a haul
your
for
point
him.
about Robert Williams, there's a reason why. I mean, there's an instance in correlation with Robert Williams. Where did he go to school?
Texas A&M.
Yeah.
What's the last defensive center to come out of Texas A&M to be good like that? DeAndre Jordan. They have the same skill
Wow,
set.
that's right. DeAndre
fact.
Jordan at
Same
Texas
thing.
A&M. They do. It's similar.
He's DeAndre Jordan with a jumper.
Yep.
Like, that's really what it is.
correct.
Like, that's really what it is. So we know what you're going to get from a Time Lord. But with the Celtics to be successful this year, before we go into the next team, it has to be a consistent bench all year round.
All year.
And that's the issue.
And these guys are going to have to
All,
stay healthy.
it has to be all year round and health.
Williams had trouble doing that the last year and a half. Hopefully he can stay healthy for Boston, a big piece of that puzzle for them going forward. Let's talk about the New York Knicks now, 2-1 this season here, right behind the Boston Celtics in the Atlantic. If we're going to talk a little division here, 6 in points scored, their first in assist to turnover ratio. And Matt, a lot of that has to do with the addition of Jalen Brunson coming over from Dallas. All the talk was he's coming, home with the Knicks with some family members and everything else going over there. He's had a pretty good start, 17.77 assists here through the first 3 games in a Knicks uniform.
No, he's been great. He's been great for them. He's plug and play. He's been a solid addition. My issue with the Knicks has always been is RJ Barrett.
Yeah.
I'm not a buyer in that. I don't believe in the Maple Mamba.
He's got the new deal, right, last year?
He got the
The
new
Maple
deal.
Mamba.
Yeah, that's what he was called. That's what he was called.
I know, I remember that. It should have been Wiggins, but I don't know.
Yeah, I just, I'm not a big buyer in him. I think the guy is an Uzi. I think he shoots the ball every chance he gets and makes very little.
Wow.
I don't know. Maybe some people think that's a hot take. I don't really think it's a hot take. I think anybody watches him play, he's literally like John Starks. He'll shoot you right out of the game and has no problem with doing
Starks
it.
reference tonight.
Yeah. But look, it's all going to live and die with Randall. And I think the other guy that we really need to highlight is probably Mitchell Robinson.
I'm a Mitch Robinson.
Had so many injuries. I don't know if he's going to be able to stay healthy for the full season. But he's another guy that's amazing. One of the big things he does is he blocks 3-point jump shots, which is extremely hard to do.
So long. He's versatile, athletic, and can get everywhere, too. So Mitchell Robinson, I've been a fan of him now
Correct.
for a while as well. Just while we're on the topic of RJ Barrett, 34% from the floor, Matt, as you alluded to here so far this season. That's not going to get it done for RJ Barrett. Brunson shooting 47%, Randall over 51%.
Let me get into the Knicks. I actually like what they're doing so far, and I'm going to give Coach Thibodeau some credit, which I have never done in my entire life. I'll let you know right now. He is actually playing Cam Reddish this season.
It's Cam Reddish,
And
20
Cam
minutes
Reddish-
a game.
And Cam Reddish is actually putting up numbers per 36 minutes.
Balling.
He's balling. Like, they used Cam Reddish last season once they got him. He wasn't hurt that whole time. He just was coach DMPs. Mm-hmm. That's the difference in the team right now.
Yep.
Honestly, the difference in the team is Cam Reddish playing along with Brunson, and then D Rose is back off the bench.
And I think Jason will remember this. We haven't seen this Cam Reddish since high school.
We haven't.
Yeah.
Slam dunk to the beach, right? He
Yeah,
was playing
I
down
mean,
at Cape Henlope.
Yeah.
He's playing like he's back in high school again. You're seeing the joy from him. He doesn't look like he's lethargic out there. I mean, at Duke, he was kind of, I think, struggling to fit in with that
It was
three-headed
an
monster.
interesting team they had.
Yeah, but
a lot of stars.
And the
he's-
Knicks still have Obi Toppin. So, it's
There we go.
they're actually a deeper team than people give them credit for.
That's true. Absolutely.
Where are you guys on Obi Toppin? I know you brought up Obi Toppin. I am not, and before the draft, I was, I thought he was way overrated coming out. Like, don't get me wrong, he's a freak athlete, and he's gotten better than what I thought he would so far, but I'm not.
Like this.
I don't think he's going to be.
I like Obi Toppin more than I like R.J. Barrett.
Really? So you had to choose one. You're taking R.J. over Obi Toppin.
I'm taking Obi Toppin over R.J. I am.
That's a fact.
Obi Toppin gives me
For the money, if you were to go by, if they're getting paid the same, I don't know, but you're right. I'd take Obi in terms of the contract after the money that RJ just got.
I look at Obi Toppin the way I looked at young Blake Griffin. Athletic.
We disagree then.
I'm gonna tell you why.
100%. 100%.
Let me tell you why.
He's got that athleticism. Don't get me
That's
wrong.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, no
but
doubt.
remember, Blake couldn't shoot early in his career either.
Yeah, but what were his numbers his rookie year compared to what Obi did his rookie year?
He didn't get played enough. If Obi plays the minutes that Blake plays his rookie year, you're looking at similar stats.
You really like Toppin.
I'm a Toppin fan. Obi Toppin fan. I am.
Because look, I'm with Nick on this. I don't know if I see Blake Griffin, but
I said young Blake. I ain't say like.
Okay.
I ain't say
like
I do
Oklahoma
like him.
head off the side of the backboard.
I
Blake
agree
Griffin.
with you that I think he's harder to get than R.J. Barrett. I think R.J. Barrett being a volume shooter, I think you can find him
34%. That's
But
tough
Obi,
when you're
with
firing.
the athleticism and the ability to stretch the floor and do what he does,
I think his game translates better in the modern NBA right now.
I agree with that.
Yeah, that could be true.
That's
agree with that.
my real point.
And
I'm
again,
with
back to R.J. Barrett, because I just looked down at the stat after you talked about him.
Yeah.
34% on 17 shots a game.
Oh, yeah, he's pulling it.
That is, again, it's early. Those numbers might get better, but as Matt said, he's been doing that now for the last couple of years. So we'll look for him to maybe get a little bit more efficient. He got that money now.
He thinks he's Kobe.
Yeah, I think he does think he's Kobe. So we'll have to keep an eye on the New York Knicks, though, 2-1. Do they make the playoffs this year?
Too early to say.
Matt, they make the playoffs? I'm putting you on the spot.
Oh, man, you are putting me on the spot here. I gotta agree with Jason. I think it's way too early to say with them. I think they could go either way. It wouldn't shock me if they made it. Wouldn't shock me if they didn't.
But I will say, I agree with you guys. I think Brunson, he was a great piece for them to add. He's controls
Definitely
the game.
great.
He wasn't worth the money to me, but it's a great pickup.
Well, yeah, he did get. Okay,
Was not worth the money.
He got a lot of money.
He got a lot.
He got a lot
That
of
contract,
money.
I'm like, oh God,
God bless his agent.
Yeah,
His agent
that's why his family with the New York Knicks. There you go.
But when your dad's on the sidelines on the staff, I mean,
Exactly.
That's true. It kinda helps out
Your
too.
uncle is up in management as well.
There you go,
So the Toronto Raptors. Let's talk now. Head up to Canada here. Speaking of R.J. Barrett, 2-2. The Toronto Raptors, of course, led still by head coach Nick Nurse. But look at what Siakam's been doing to open up the season. 26.5 points, 10 boards, 7 assists. Almost a triple-double machine for Siakam.
He'll cool off in 10 games.
He does that sometimes, but he's getting a little bit better. He's their go-to guy. Trent Jr., 18.5 so far to start the season for them. Van Vliet doing what you kind of expect Van Vliet to do. 16 points, getting those, dishing out some dimes there with 8 assists per game. They're 2-2. I feel like when you talk about the Toronto Raptors, it's kind of like the same thing, each year, almost, very generic. Is there anything that could separate them this year? Matt, I'll start with you here on the Raptors. And what's their season outlook? Have they done anything in the offseason or last year to kind of would separate them and maybe have them not a 5 or 6 seed in the East?
I think if you talk to the Toronto Raptors, they think that they don't need to do anything. I think
Right, seems like that every
I think they
year.
have a firm belief in Gary Trent Jr. I think they have a firm belief in Scotty Barnes, who
Scotty
we're gonna-
Barnes.
that's the real big
That
piece for
is
them.
That is the piece,
If
absolutely.
he takes the next step forward in what they believe they have there, I don't think they felt like they needed to do anything else. They have a good. Now I'll say this about Masai Ujiri. He has created an environment there, and he has created a culture there that they all buy into. All those guys, they have great chemistry.
Absolutely.
The coach has the buy-in from the staff. The staff has the buy-in with the coach. So there's this real unity thing there with all those guys. I think what could hurt them is if Pascal Siakam has this layoff that he tends to do.
Yeah.
He has
Goes
this
through
mid-season
stretches,
lull where you'll be like, why is he in the game? Just put OG Anunoby in there. Like, this is
He
getting...
does some crazy. Sometimes you're watching and you go,
Yeah.
wow. Like, he does
Yeah.
some crazy
That's
stuff
a name.
out there.
That's a name. OG is still on the
OG.
Raptors.
Yeah.
I know he is, but it's just like he doesn't get
Become the
enough time.
forgotten man.
He doesn't get enough time for me. But
He was one of those guys that a lot of people were talking when those big trade talks. He was one of those big pieces.
isn't Chris Boucher on the Raptors still?
He
too?
is.
He
yeah.
is.
But Scotty got hurt the other night.
Yep.
Scotty Barnes
Well,
got hurt.
he was banged up at the end of last year against the Sixers when he had that
Yeah,
ankle
he
injury.
got
That's
hurt,
kind of
so
been his thing.
He already missed the game, so it's like, what do we? Scotty Barnes is the key to that team this year.
Yeah,
However far they go, it's going to be on Scotty Barnes.
That's a fact.
And that's what I see right now. And to go to your point, they didn't do enough.
Yeah.
They are a middle of a pack team at best.
5 or 6 seed, right in the East.
They're like a 5 or 6 seed. They're scraping the play-in if they fall at 7. But
I think Nick Nurse is just that good of a head coach. I think that's like, it just seems like the roster is going to be what it is. I feel like, and I think they'll be, like you said, 5, 6, 7 if they have a bad year.
I'm not as high on the Raptors as most people are. I think that when you stand pat like that in the Eastern Conference,
It's getting better and better.
That's getting
right?
better and better. I don't think you can stand pat that long and make any real noise. So I think they're serviceable. They'll be at least 500 this season. I'll give them at least 500. But 500 doesn't win you a championship.
Oh, no.
No.
So if they're thinking championship, it's not going to happen.
Playoff team?
They're a fringe playoff team, yes.
Playoff team?
I think they'll playoff team.
I think they're a playoff team. I think.
But I also think
6, 7, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah, I would say at least 6.
Yeah, they're also, but to his point, they haven't done a whole lot, but again, they really have
Since
this huge
Kawhi, right?
belief in their
Exactly.
development.
Since they won that championship.
Like, they're really high on Delano Banton, another guy they've been working with. So, like, a lot of what they do is based off, they have this view or attitude, if you will.
They seem to have
you can even call it
success,
cockiness,
right?
who knows, but that's what they have.
They
a
find
belief
ways
in.
to win. We saw it last year. They
do.
gave the Sixers a little bit of a run there in that first round. Again, when you look at the rosters, you would have been like, Sixers got a lot more stars on paper, but they play tough year in and year out. Like you said, with Nick Nurse, just that culture there up in Toronto since they won that championship with Kawhi Leonard. Let's talk now about the Brooklyn Nets, guys.
Yes.
Here we go.
Here we go.
1-2 to start their season. They were up there in Vegas to be up in the Eastern Conference, to win the Eastern Conference, in the top 3 or 4 teams coming in terms of odds. 1-2 to start their season. Ben Simmons, 17 points, 14 fouls, has fouled out of 2 of the 3 games that he has played in. Durant, though, he's averaging 32, kind of maybe what we would have expected out of him. Kyrie, 27. But the Nets are 1-2. The defense is just, once again, not there. It's abysmal. They don't play defense. You can see that he thought Simmons might help that a little bit.
Yeah.
They just kind of look like almost the same team that we saw last year. Jason, what do you think about Brooklyn?
Where's my camera? There we go. Fire Steve Nash now. Fire Steve Nash now.
Big facts.
The Nets will not go anywhere.
I don't know how he got the job to begin
The
with.
Nets will not go anywhere if you keep Steve Nash as the head coach. And Steve Nash played in Phoenix where they didn't play a lick of defense. So it's not surprising that his own team he coaches doesn't play defense.
At all.
And I'll say this. I like Kyrie's his scoring, but for them to win, Kyrie has to be more around 22, 23 points a game and bump that assist number up to about 8 or 9.
Big fact.
To be successful. And Ben's going to be Ben. That's what he's going to give you the whole season right there. Honestly, he probably won't be above 11, 12 points a game. But I think they need to move Kyrie off the ball and let Ben be the point guard.
Well, there are issues with Ben Simmons playing the point guard. He is doing a good job of assists, dishing the ball out here through 3 games. 5.7 points, Matt. Again, I believe he's in those starting lineups. He's playing some center at the 5 a little bit. What is your season outlook on the Nets? Because we kind of know, hey, maybe they'll get it together if they get a new coach, they get to the playoffs. Simmons is still on that roster come playoff time. We know how he affects a team in the playoffs. What do you think about Simmons and the Nets? Where do you see them finishing this year in the East?
I think they're a playoff team, but only because of the talents of Durant and
We saw that
Kyrie.
last year, right?
But I will say this. I really want to back what Jason said on this, and it's so true. Steve Nash needs to go. If you look up and maybe Sean Marks too, who's the GM there. Because if you look up poorly constructed teams, this is one of the most poorly constructed teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
They literally went out, cast their net, said we're going to get 2 amazing talents, and we're just going to fill the bench full of players. And then they went out, Harden deal. They then traded Harden for Ben Simmons. And let me say this too about Ben Simmons. I don't think Ben Simmons is going to ever get back to the player he was in Philadelphia. That has nothing to do with, I'm not a believer in his talent. It has everything to do, I think, whatever we like to say about Ben Simmons, one thing we cannot deny, he has run from the grind this whole time. And I've seen this happen with other players. Nick Anderson, he didn't run from the grind, but like Nick Anderson was an 86% free throw shooter. When he had that mental breakdown,
missed those four free throws against the Bulls. Wasn't the same after that.
Wasn't the same.
Wasn't the same.
And we love to talk about the physical talents of players, but the biggest thing is mental.
The mental.
The mental.
No doubt.
It's so huge.
Underrated too.
And when I saw him play Ja, I didn't see that. I didn't see that killer in him. I didn't see that swag. I didn't see that smile that he liked to do with guys.
Yeah.
I didn't see any of that. I saw a guy that was like, this guy could take me.
Well, also Ja's a different animal.
Ja is a different animal, but the old Ben had the cockiness and the attitude to say, I'll take it.
And Ja still cooked them.
Ja's Ja.
Ja still cooked them.
I mean, but yeah, to your point, man, again, one of the, a top candidate for Defensive Player of the Year when he was with the Sixers for that full season last year. He was that. He was guarding the best player on the opposing team, and he liked that challenge.
Yeah, he loved to get cooked.
Yeah.
I've seen him get cooked.
Yeah, listen.
I've seen him get cooked by guys and have a smile on his face and not care.
And I'm like, man.
Smile's no longer there, guys. He's getting
no
cooked
longer
without
there.
a smile. Oh, no.
You should watch, buddy. Come on.
Yeah.
You should watch, man.
I just think it's going to get worse for Ben. I mean, look.
I agree with
I
you
feel
there.
bad for him because I think he's been so many.
I don't.
I'll tell you why I feel bad, because I think he's got there's two types of fans of him. You have the fans that are ridiculous, that make him sound like he's a top 10 talent waiting to happen. And then you have the fans on the other side that hate him and have him literally as like he's the worst player that ever played. I think we all hit this table probably in that middle where we think he's a talented player, but not the greatest player and not the poorest player.
Absolutely.
The problem with Ben was he didn't understand where he was at, that Philadelphia is not a franchise or organization or a people where you can.
Wrong spot for him. I
Where you can run, take an L and run from. Like, that's not going to happen in Philly, man.
It goes further.
Go ahead.
Ben has been coddled since high school.
Oh,
Yeah, he has, and that's absolutely true.
And he's never really put in any true work at his craft.
Yep.
He's relied on his size and just gifts alone, but never really worked in the gym. You can clearly see it in the way he hasn't developed a jumper yet.
Yeah.
And not even a three-point shot, just a jumper in general.
jump right.
And then Brett Brown sabotaged him too.
Well, I still stand by this. I know this is a crazy thing to even say. I stand by the fact that Sam Hinkie hired Brett Brown to lose. I swear he knew he was going to tank, and I think he got Brett Brown to help deal with the tanking. But Brett Brown, I think San Antonio brought Brett Brown in to help out with the tanking this year, but it's not going too well.
But let's go back to Simmons for a second. Think about what Simmons did in his basketball career so far. In high school, they were ranked but didn't really win the high school national championship. Went to LSU, failed to make the tournament as a freshman.
Yeah.
Then the Sixers haven't been out the second round.
Right.
What has been really done as far as winning is concerned?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Think about it.
Yeah.
When you don't know what a winning culture is,
It's hard to create it.
how to create it. And if you usually just every man for himself, you're not going to buy into a team concept. And that's what happened with him in Philly.
Yeah.
He didn't buy into a team concept, and he's trying to now in Brooklyn. I'll give him credit for that. But if he keeps playing like this, he's going to hear a lot more from Kyrie and KD, for sure.
And that's the thing. Will he even be? I mean, it's going to be hard to trade someone like Ben Simmons, but will he even be on the team here through the season?
He
I mean, you
will.
could probably say he will.
He will.
Yeah.
No,
You could probably say he will, but if they go off the rails here halfway through the season.
Sean Marks needs this to work.
Yeah,
If it doesn't work,
he's out of there.
He's got egg on his face, and it's so. But let me just put the final nail in Ben's coffin. In the NBA, you have the international community, and most of the international community rides with their guys. So you got the Slovenians; they all ride with the Slovenians.
No doubt.
It's Serbians ride with the Serbians. Spaniards run with the Spaniards.
The Australians do not rock the
They
Simmons.
do not rock the Ben Simmons at all.
They do not. They do not.
And again, Patty Mills on this Brooklyn Nets team, right?
Yeah, he did.
Trust me, he's not
not a
looking
fan.
up. He's not looking up. No.
Listen,
Well, and again, Ben, and would you blame him? Because, back when the international pool started 2 years ago, wherever it was, when they played in the offseason, he told them he was going to play for Australia. Then didn't do it. So, again, he's kind of done this to himself in that aspect.
the three favorite Aussies are Patty Mills, Steibel, and Joe Ingles.
Yep.
Joe Ingles, man,
That's really what it is.
Really
That's
hurt. Joe
it.
Ingles was great before that ACL.
That's really what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. Now you got Dyson Daniels too.
And
Yeah,
Dyson
Dyson
Daniels.
Daniels, yeah.
So again, let's just wrap this up. We'll put a bow on Simmons.
Yep.
Last 3 games for Ben Simmons in terms of plus minus: minus 16, minus 3, and minus 26 when he's on the floor. The past 3 games.
That was that game last night against the Grizzlies. Yeah, minus 26.
So not a good look maybe on the floor for Simmons. We'll see how he does to improve. So again, we ran a lot of NFL, but we're going to cap it off with the Sixers here today. We're only going to get through the Atlantic. We'll pick up the rest of the East and the West on next week. But let's talk now about the Philadelphia 76ers, and I'm sure we'll spend a decent amount of time talking about them. Here we are in the Philadelphia market. Obviously, a big Sixer fan myself. But when you talk about the Sixers to start, they were one of the teams that haven't gotten off to a good start that you thought maybe would have. Yeah, the Nets are 1-2. They got Simmons, whatever. The Sixers are 1-3. Again, sitting the bottom of that division right now means nothing through 4 games. But they're not off to the start, Jason, that everybody expected. The Beard looking pretty good in terms of stats when you look down on paper here. 27, 8.5, and 10 for the Beard and James Harden in kind of a revitalization year. A lot of criticism on him in the offseason. But the Sixers have the worst transition defense in years through the first 4 games. They're not guarding anybody in transition. And, James Harden may be a little piece of that. But what have you seen from the Sixers through 4 games, 1-3?
I'm trying to figure out how Doc Rivers is still the coach of the Sixers. I'm going to start there.
And that's from a Celtics fan. He brought you a championship in a week.
Doc Rivers has that one good year as a coach. What did he do with T-Mac in Orlando? What did he do with
Clippers?
The Clippers with Lake Show and then with everybody else there? What has he really done outside of that 1 year in Boston?
Who 3-1 leads?
A record number of 3-1 leads. Record.
Honestly, of course, the ring is great, but you really don't have anything else to show for your coaching resume besides that one championship, which was 15 years ago now.
Yep.
And I think that's the problem. But number 2, I'm looking at the averages. You have Harden at 26, Embiid at 26, Max is at 17. For the Sixers to be a contender, what they think they should be, all 3 of those guys had to be 20-point game scorers. Until that happens, they're not going to do much right now. But it's still early in the season, 1-3.
It's early, yeah.
They can recover from that, but for them to be successful, all 3 of them had to be at 20 or above.
And, Matt, a lot of offseason additions, right? P.J. Tucker, the big signing coming in. Daniel House off the bench. DeAnthony Melton off the bench. When I've watched them so far this year, it kind of looks like the same team I saw last year. What have you seen? You've seen the new additions now through 4 games. What have you seen from the Sixers?
I'm shocked. I'm not seeing any real cohesion out there. Yeah. Maxey at times looks lost. It's incredible. I'm a huge believer in his talent, but for some reason, him and Harden aren't gelling out there. And Tobias Harris is also lost out there. I mean, he's been
lost since he signed that contract, but
Tobias Harris.
Jimmy Butler let him hear about that.
I'm not a fan of Tobias Harris, so look, I'm sorry, Sixer fans. I'm just not a fan of Tobias Harris. But I'll say this: they need him to be above average, and he has to do that.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the problem I have with the Sixers and Tobias Harris. They really have never used Tobias Harris properly since he's been there. They have not utilized his full skill set at all since he's been there. Tobias he's really a 3-and-D guy who can run the break. They don't use him that way. They have him spotting up
in the
corner. He's big enough. He played center in college. Put him in the post again against smaller forwards that's playing against him, and he can do some work. He can get you 10 points and put him in the post alone against smaller players. But he's a 3-point shooter. He's averaging 30% for his career from 3-point line. Like he's a great 3-point shooter when you give him time.
Yep.
But his skill set isn't utilized, but he's also a player similar
35%.
to where he needs the ball in his hands a little more too. So he hasn't really learned how to play off the ball either.
And that kind of was when he was at the Clippers with Doc before they traded or before he came to Philly. He was a 21, plus point
he's
scorer.
killing
I think.
it, yeah.
I mean,
Okay,
I think
but-
it was an all-star. Was he an all-star? Close should have been an
But
all-star
look,
that
Doc
year.
let him go before. How did Doc get him again? Doc was a GM. Let's not forget that. He was a GM of the Clippers too.
That's right. Yeah.
I forgot that. Yeah.
Again, 15 points so far this season for Tobias Harris. 15 and 6
That's true.
for him. Again, like you said, Maxey and Harris. They're still. It kind of seems like they had Harden at the trade deadline last year. It still kind of seems like they're still just trying to figure out some type of rhythm.
Listen, Harden going back to that dribble,
That's
Harden,
what I think,
and you
'cause I
can't
think
have that
that's
right
affecting
now.
him. I think
You
that's
can't-
affecting him. I think that's an issue.
But I also blame Embiid too. I'm gonna tell you why I blame Embiid. Like the Sixers are going to be better than what they are showing right now.
Yeah, I agree.
But Embiid, you are 7'2". Get your in the post.
Yeah.
You are that 3-point line stuff got to stop.
He loves the three.
And he's out of shape already. He had that surgery, and they're coming in saying he didn't get a lot of his offseason conditioning in.
Joel Embiid is too big and too dominant in the post to be above the foul line as much as he is in their offensive sets. He should be high post and foul line and below 90% of the time. That 3-point stuff, yes, you can hit them. You're not Steph Curry though, bro.
He settles for those.
He settles for threes.
Yeah.
When Embiid is on the block,
Unstoppable.
he's the most unstoppable force in the NBA. And we saw what Giannis couldn't do with Embiid, too. People forget that. We saw what Jokic couldn't do with Embiid. And Embiid should have been MVP, by the way. That's another story another day.
Oh, yes. We both said that all year last
But,
year.
yeah.
You know?
But I'll say this. But the problem is with the offensive sets, when Harden has the ball, he kicks it out. He throws to Embiid. Embiid's up by the 3-point line. Embiid doesn't repost enough. If Embiid reposts, that's a foul.
And is that conditioning?
No, it's not conditioning. It's just
I think, to me, so
it's
far
poor
this
offense.
season-
It's poor offense.
Well, I do agree with that, too. I just think he gets tired running up and down the floor. I think it's especially...
He's tired anyway. It doesn't even
exactly.
matter,
I
like,
just think more so either to the start of this year, and then they're coming out saying, hey, he had this surgery, so we didn't get to work out in the offseason. It's going to take him some time to get back into it. But to me, I see that every year, it seems.
Is he still eating Burger King every week?
He used to eat McDonald's before the games. Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
He's
He's
in
on that Shaq diet. He does the
Yeah.
season like Shaq used to do. You just work your way into shape.
But Shaq didn't do it this early in his career. Shaq waited until he got to LA to start doing
That's
it.
true.
He waited about 5-6 years in.
That's true.
Embiid was doing this from day one.
From day one. Absolutely.
Like we used to have Slender Shaq.
And that's the problem. That's the problem with Embiid right now. He's got to get himself more dedicated to this conditioning thing. I think Jason's absolutely right. When he's motivated and he's on that block and he's engaged in the offense, he's unstoppable. I don't think there's really many forces in the NBA, maybe a Giannis or Luka, maybe when they're hot, that can match.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, he's phenomenal when he's that way, but the problem is you don't start getting that from him until we're in the middle of the season.
Like January, February.
Yeah, then we start seeing
that.
that, and it's like, dude, come on.
No, we need that from the outset.
Yes.
Yes, we do, and the Sixers do, because they're off to a 1-3 start through 4 games here in 2022. It is early, not going to worry, not too worried again. They got some new additions, going to take some time to gel. I think they'll be okay, and obviously a playoff team. Where do you see the Sixers finishing?
Oh, they're
Again, it's really early. These are all, I'm just going to put you on the spot.
Listen, if we're looking at just the Atlantic Division right now, the only 2 playoff teams from this division will be the Celtics and the Sixers.
You think so, huh?
As of right now. I don't know about the other 3. Celtics and the Sixers will be playoff teams from this division, for sure.
Matt, how do you feel about that?
I would probably go Celtics, Sixers, and then Toronto.
Something about those Raptors. I will
Something
say
about
that.
those
The
Raptors.
culture, right? We talked about the culture. I agree with you on that.
Brooklyn, look, they could go either way.
Exactly, right? That's the farthest range of possibility.
Brooklyn is a team that can be in the number 1 seed
Yeah, exactly.
or playing team.
Yep,
Literally,
exactly.
yeah,
It's crazy.
that crazy. The realm of possibilities is that crazy. And I mean, look, I'm not trying to pick on Kyrie Irving, but the problem with Kyrie Irving is we don't know. You know, one day he could just show up and be like, look, man, I hugged some trees, and
Like, I'm
the
good to
tree
go.
told me I need to.
I need to go to Mecca on a pilgrimage or something.
Right. It just, you never know with Kyrie. He's a mixed bag, so.
But they're also missing Joe Harris and Seth Curry right now too.
Yes.
Seth, I think, is going to be a
Seth is
big
huge.
help.
And Joe Harris. When they get the full band together, we'll see what they do. But until then, Fire Steve Nash, please.
Yeah,
Please.
Yeah.
Please,
Well, guys, we
please.
got-
I agree with that.
I guess we went through the Atlantic Division. We'll finish up and wrap up the East next week along with the West. We'll just decide how we divvy up that
talk about this, man.
next week. And again, the Phillies looking to find some magic like they did in 2008.
There you go.
Start the World Series on Friday. The guys, before we head out of here, we got 4 games on the slate tonight. 2 of them, though, haven't started. The Mavericks and the Pelicans are underway in the first. Pelicans leading Dallas 33-25. Luka's off to an unbelievable start, as usual. 35 points a game for Luka Doncic here. 8 rebounds, 8 assists, something along those lines. And the
insane.
Pistons and the Wizards. Wizards up 41-36. On the Pistons. I know we didn't get them today. Not seeing much of Johnny Davis, but you got Porzingis, Kuzma, and Beal. Have them over 500 through the early part of the season. Not much to say about Washington. We'll skip them. I knew you got some.
You don't do that.
And
Don't
so
do
we're going to
that.
keep it moving.
I like the Wizards, but against the Pistons, no. But I was happy that they brought back the old Wizards uniforms, the blue ones, for this season. They brought those back too.
Yeah, you love to see that. So here we go. 2 games. We got an 8 o'clock start in 8 minutes, and we got a 10 o'clock tonight. Clippers at the Thunder. Clippers -5.5.
Yeah, Clippers got that.
Clippers
Yeah,
going to cover
that's-
5.5?
It might
Win
beat
by
them
6?
by 15.
Yeah.
On the road? So
They
you're both
might
taking
beat
the
them by
Clippers?
15.
And here we go. TNT, the late game tonight, 10 o'clock tip-off. The Warriors and the Suns. Devin Booker and Steph Curry are both off to extremely hot starts, both averaging over 30 points a game through 3 games. Suns at home, they're favored over the Warriors, -1.5. Who you taking, Jason?
Warriors win the game. DeAndre Ayton doesn't want to be there.
And that's the reason for this loss tonight.
No, it's just Phoenix isn't the same team anymore.
No.
Like, I think their window is closing.
And Chris Paul, I think, after that birthday last year,
Need a
things
slam
are
shot.
getting bad
Yeah,
for
I-
CP3.
I trust Kuminga and Poole and
Moody over there.
Wiseman.
and Wiseman.
Looks good, man. Now he's back out
And
there
we
running the floor.
and you people forget we have a healthy Klay Thompson for a whole season.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
I like Golden State this
like
year
Golden State.
as well. So last week, I'm going with the Warriors as well. I'm going with the Warriors in this one. 2 Suns or the Warriors, Matt?
Warriors, man.
So last week, we did our conference finals predictions when we didn't have you on the show, so we're going to have to get yours today. I think I went Bucks, Sixers, and I went Clippers, Warriors. Matt, do you remember what you did in the
No, I went Warriors.
I
I
know you
said I
went
think
to the
I
Warriors.
think it would be Warriors and Clippers.
Yep.
And I believe I said I think Bucks will come out.
Bucks, yep. So let me get your Eastern and Western Conference finals predictions.
Ooh. Okay. Western Conference.
Now, last year you had the Grizz.
I'm
Is it
going
gonna be the
Dallas
Grizz?
and Memphis.
Dallas and Memphis.
Ooh.
There you go. Some new blood.
I'm going Dallas
in
and
the
Memphis
Western
in the
Conference
West.
Finals.
Okay.
And in the East, I'm going. Hush your mouth, Dennis. Hear you from back here. You know what? I think the Sixers get past the second round. I'm going Sixers, Celtics, Eastern Conference Finals.
Wow. There you go. Wouldn't that be? I would take
That'd
that.
be-
I would take
It
it.
should have been last year.
That would be.
It should have been last
Good
year.
one.
That'd
Should've
be
been
a
last year.
great blast from
So
the
I'm going
past.
Sixers, Celtics, Eastern Conference. I'm going Mavericks and Grizzlies in the West.
Again, I think it's the Kings haven't made the playoffs since 2002. I think that was the last time. And they've still made the Eastern Conference or the conference finals before the Philadelphia 76ers. Who last
01,
made it
baby.
in 2001. So that's a crazy
Been a minute.
statistic there. So they're hoping to get back there. The Eagles are 6-0. They're off to a hot start. The Phillies are in the World Series. Great time to be a Philadelphia
Time to be alive in
sports
Philly
fan,
right now.
Everyone.
And then the Philadelphia Union are in the Eastern Conference Finals
How about
of
that?
MLS.
There you go. How
There you
about
go.
that? All over the place. So, guys,
Wow.
before we head out
Philly
here on
winning all the
DETV
way.
tonight, yeah, we'll take them all the championships. Why not? Jason, any parting words here as we sign off?
Philly, enjoy this time because all your teams are hot. The Flyers are 4-1.
How about that?
It's a great time to be a fan in Philly. That's all I'll say.
Matt, what about you? Any parting words for our audience here tonight?
The parting word I would have is let's hope the Phillies pull out a win. It'd be huge for the Phillies. I really want to see the
take 1 and
Phillies.
2, right?
I
Gotta
really want to see
take
the
one and
Phillies.
The Phillies will win the World Series. I will say this now.
Oh, here we go.
And
Jason, there we go.
And they will win in 5 games.
5 games.
5 games.
Getting rid of the Astros in 5.
Nostradamus
Yeah,
over
there
here.
we go. How
There we
about
go.
that? Jason giving us prediction. He's been good.
I've been good with my
on his
predictions all year long as far as the
predictions.
team getting to the championship.
You know,
game.
I say
go.
one of us has been pretty good overall, like in terms of picking winners and
Yeah.
stuff like that through the season. We'll try to keep that magic going right here on DETV. 8 o'clock on Friday, Phillies and the Astros, Game 1 of the World Series. The Sixers are back in action tomorrow, 7:30 against the Toronto Raptors. So that's some stuff to look forward to for Nick Alessandrini, Jason McCall, and Matthew Maurer. We will see you on Thursday for a Thursday Night Football preview, and we're going to get to the rest of the Eastern Conference as well. We'll see you then.